And we back.
Back at it.
So what we talking about today?
I wish I had like a happier voice right now.
You got a real voice.
Like, and I say that to not say that I'm like unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, happy is a byproduct. Nobody's happy all the time. That doesn't mean you're sad because you're not happy.
Yeah, just a little. I get a little overwhelmed sometimes with emotions.
Don't we all? But what has you overwhelmed at this point in time in history?
So let me just start off by saying...
Or her story. My bad.
Let me just start off by saying to all of my usual podcast listeners, y'all are probably thinking, where's the intro music? Where is the, excuse me, I'm speaking?
Nah, right into it.
Yeah, I just don't really have the energy for that today. Obviously have not. I have not put up an episode in, I think, 2 weeks. But I did have a birthday.
Shout out to the birthday.
Yeah, 33. And that just made me reflect on some things in life. I've been reflecting. 32 was not the easiest year of my life.
But you powered through that.
Yes, and 33 is my Jesus year. I'm not saying that to say, like, I'm going to die this year. Like, nah. I'm not dying on nobody's cross. Like, I'm just not.
Nah, we got kids to raise. You ain't going nowhere.
No, but I just had a lot of reflections, and just I realized I'm really good at playing. Like if you wanted to be a politician, I would be an excellent politician's wife.
Too bad I don't have aspirations for that.
Well, if you did, I can smile, and even when I don't feel like smiling, just because I'm really good at concealing my real emotions to protect others.
But is that a good thing?
Not necessarily. So I guess today they're going to get another side of SheIsTwinkle.
Yeah, they need to see all sides.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they know who you are by your voice, but let the people know.
This is Whitney Morgan, Doc Morgan, KC Credit Doc, your favorite Newt, whatever else comes to mind.
All right, yeah, and it is me. It is she, your favorite host, the one and only that does the most. SheIsTwinkle, call me Twinkle, call me Antoinette. As long as you're calling my name, that's all that matters to me. All right, yeah. I wish I had some like peppiness in my voice, but
that doesn't matter. We here. So, what did you want to get off your chest in terms of, I know you had wrote something down.
Well, I had some raw feelings and emotions, and I had some things that I wanted to share with the pod as a way of releasing my feelings and emotions, because I'm sure that other people have felt this way, and just to get it off my chest. So I wrote a journal entry back on July 12th. So this was after my birthday. My birthday was the 9th. And
oh, you have the exact date.
Yes. I put dates next to my journal entries.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Maybe for the female species. Yes, it is. So I guess I can just share my journal entry with everyone. What do you think of that?
Let her rip.
All right. Y'all don't judge me or judge me. Whatever. All right. July 12th. Today I'm feeling anxious, but not as bad as yesterday. I'm ready to reveal my story, my truth publicly. I won't be received well by them, but I have to do it anyway. Holding it inside is weighing on me physically. It hurts my chest and tightens all my muscles to the point of me not realizing that I'm not breathing. The rush of anxiety and emotional overload causes me to hold my breath in fear, resistance, and pain. I have to release my feelings, my truth, so that I can breathe again. I keep taking public and private blows to my heart and mind. I didn't ask for it, and I don't deserve the hurt feelings, false narratives, reverse blaming, and public shaming that I've received. I can't change anyone. I can't fix anyone either. That's not my assignment. God does the fixing. However, I can stand firmly in my truth by releasing the heaviness of my trauma so that I can continue to move forward in my healing journey and encourage others who can relate. Fear of ridicule and victim blaming will no longer keep me in bondage. That ends today. She is Twinkle. She is me. She will not be silenced, and she has a story to tell.
Wow, that was a lot to take in, and I'm happy and I'm proud of you for sharing that on your platform. So for the listeners, what prompted you to first write those thoughts down and to decide to share those here on the platform?
3 days after my birthday, I was just feeling really overwhelmed with emotion. And you would think they were good emotions, but I recognized fake love as well, too. And it was becoming a bit overbearing if I look over my 32nd year of life. And a lot happened. And I tried to play nice, and I try not to say things publicly. Now, it's not like I've never released my emotions. I will talk to people close to me. But there was a point where I was getting silenced by that, because by me saying anything and telling my story just to those closest to me, that was becoming a problem. And everything just seemed to still fall back on me. And my feelings weren't acknowledged and validated. And in a sense, I felt like my healing journey was starting to become stagnant. You know how when you're on a weight loss journey and you're going good, losing weight, and then suddenly you hit a plateau and you feel like you can't lose weight anymore?
Absolutely.
And then you have to stop and figure out, like, what is it? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently so that I can kick back up this weight loss journey? That's how I was feeling in my healing journey. Like, what is holding me back? And the idea of being silenced and reverse blaming and all those things that I put on paper in my journal entry, that's what was holding me back. So I'm definitely not one to speak publicly on things, and because of fear of a million different things. But I would like to say that I have watched a lot of other people's videos, listened to other podcasts, and I've heard other people's stories, and it helped me, and I understood why they did it, because I understood that it was helping them to release at the same time.
Yeah, it's a touchy subject when you're sharing your own story and you're getting your thoughts out on paper or on audio or on video, which is what a lot of people do on social media. And it's not to hurt others or it's not to be hateful, but these are the ways that we can connect with other people in this day and age. A lot of people don't, I mean, in your everyday life, you may come in contact with people at your job, at your church, but that's pretty much it. Like, you may have a social group, you may not, but, you know, people within that group may not be going through the same things as you. So social media, these platforms is a good way to get your thoughts out there. And then it's funny how it works. Like, people who are going through or have gone through the same types of issues will connect with you, and you kind of build your tribe together.
And you know that you're not alone in the way that you're feeling. No matter how insignificant or...
No, it's definitely significant.
But at times when you're going through things, you feel insignificant. Like, nobody understands. Or let me just keep it to myself so that nobody thinks I'm doing too much. Like,
and for some reason, we as humans think when we keep stuff in or we internalize it, that it goes away, or we like try to keep it under the rug, or we try to, if we just act like it doesn't exist, if we live in a different reality, then, you know, it's gone. No, it's still there and it's actually growing. It's still whatever issue it is, it's still growing. So the next time that it comes about or you experience it, it's even more powerful than it was before, because while you've been ignoring it, it's just been growing in the background because you haven't dealt with it.
And festering. Yeah.
It's like a fungus. It just keeps going. So you have to deal with these things head on. You have to cut the fungus off. It's like if we don't deal with these things internally, it starts decaying our soul, our subconscious. It starts decaying, and it doesn't go away. The virus doesn't go away. The fungus doesn't go away. Those feelings doesn't go away. So you may or may not know how to feel or know how to deal with them at that point in time. That's why some people have an emotional response where they lash out or they do something crazy. But that's why it's important to seek professional help.
That's crazy, but
well, yeah, some people do crazy stuff like shoot up a whole school or jump in front of a train or something like that. Yeah, but so that's why those are the extremes. Like, some people keep it in and never speak on it, and then some people, they have a bad day at work and they go do some crazy stuff. So that's why
we go postal, literally.
We have to find the proper means and the proper ways to deal with these emotions and traumas that we go through, because we all go through it.
Yeah.
Nobody listening to the sound of our voice is perfect.
A lot of people, they are quick to deal with their physical health. And like I said, they notice when they get to a plateau and they're not losing weight anymore physically, and they quickly try to come up with other ways or what might now work for them that wasn't working. Like, it's no longer, whatever they were doing in the past is no longer working. Now they need to try something new. Well, it's the same thing with your mental health. Like, once you get to that plateau and you're like, wow, what is like blocking me? I'm getting more anxious. I'm getting more overwhelmed. What is this? I got to do something different. Like, I got to really look at, I can't just tell myself, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Like, no, I got to really face some things and choose to do something different, no matter how difficult it may be.
And you have to get uncomfortable to grow. Like, if you mentioned you just had a birthday, you just turned 33. I've known you since before you were 23. So if you had the same mindset, the same disposition, the same outlook on life now at 33 that you did on 23, that would be a tragedy. I would be like, you haven't grown at all.
Right. Right. Well, one thing I can say, in my 33rd year of life and in entering into my truth and my story, my truth for today is that healing is hard.
Why is that?
Healing is one of the hardest things that you have to do, because you have to face a lot of hurtful occurrences and really start to process it and understand why it happened or why whoever offended you, where they may have been in their mindset. You have to address hard truths of never receiving apologies, acknowledgments, any of those things, and learning that life is going to look different now because you have to do something different. Like, when you're choosing to heal and move forward, you're not going to come out the same as you did before you went into that. You don't want to be that person you were at the beginning of that healing journey. At the beginning of that journey, you were hurt. You were tattered. You were abused. You were at your lowest of lows, and you felt like, I have to do something different. So when you come out on the other side, you'll feel better, but you'll be a new person, but you'll also have a new normal.
A new reality. And it's tough.
It's hard.
It's tough to heal because it's not just a you thing. It is, like I said, a new reality, a new normal. So your relationships, your outlook on life changes. And dealing with the people who may have hurt you, there's so many factors and variables, because they themselves may be going through their own traumas, or they may have their own perspective on life, or they feel like what they did was justified. And so these these items or these things may really have affected and shaped the way that your life turned out, but for them, they may have a totally different outlook or perspective on whatever transpired.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're both not starting from square one. You're not starting from the same knowledge base or frame of reference. It's like you're starting way over here, they're starting way over there, and you're trying to get to the middle. But if both sides are plant firm, or even if one side is willing to work towards the middle, but the other side is planted firm in their stance, you may or may not ever reach a middle ground or common ground of understanding. And I think as human beings, I know me in particular, I always try to reach a common ground of understanding, because I don't want to hold grudges. I don't want to just be like, well, I don't mess with them, they don't mess with me. No, I want to get the realm of understanding, but it takes two to tango.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that word, grudges. Oh my gosh, that word has been used against me so many times in life. And I'm going to be honest in saying, oh no, in my past, I've been like a huge grudge holder.
And horrible at playing board games. You used to get mad very quickly, but now you a silent assassin. You better watch out.
Now I'm just like, okay, I'll be back and I'll beat you, and that's how I redeem myself. But beyond the games, I do recognize that I used to be bad at holding grudges, and I really prayed against that and actively tried to get better at that. And so if there's a person that you used to be, people remember you as that person. So they don't acknowledge who you are now. So it's easy to use your old person against you. So I can honestly say today, I am not a grudge holder. I am a boundary keeper.
So that's important to note. What's the difference between someone who holds grudges and someone who holds people accountable?
I mean, that's exactly, I feel like you said it right there. Like, holding that grudge, I'm just mad, I'm just angry, don't even talk to me, none of that. Like, I don't want nothing to do with you. But when you put a boundary in place, you give an explanation and you give a reason, and you say, this is why I've put this boundary up. You did this, so now this is my reaction. This is a treatment that I'm not allowing in my life.
How do people generally respond when you try to put up a boundary?
People hate boundaries. Absolutely hate boundaries. Naturally, you would think boundaries should be respected. But when you're telling somebody that you're going to do something different in your life, and please respect that, but especially if they were a part of your normal everyday life, you're also changing their life. So they are going to step and stomp all over your boundaries because you now sound crazy to them because you're changing what's normal to them. But you're doing it because it's what's best for you, and it's what you can handle mentally and emotionally. But the boundaries get stomped all over. And when they do, it makes it even worse for the person that put up the boundary. Because now I have to put up a boundary on top of that boundary and then feel like I have to explain myself. And it's layers. This healing journey is like an onion, and peeling back layers and layers, and there's tears and tears and tears and not understanding, and you want it to stop, but you got to keep going.
Yeah, you have to be consistent with your boundary, with your change, with being uncomfortable, because if you do it for a little while and once you face some adversity, you just give up and go back, I always say, to the matrix, so to speak, in terms of going back to the normal, then it was all for naught. So like, people hate change, whether it's in corporate America, at home, anywhere. People hate having to change their thought process, change their habits. It's uncomfortable, but that's the only way, as we mentioned, that you can grow, that you can change your circumstance, that you can really reach the heights, or a very personable and open relationship with family, friends, whoever. Like, you have to reach to the depths of that relationship and experience different conversations and different circumstances to see. Like, for you, when I met you, like, I wanted to see how you responded in different situations, And I was like, okay, yep, she's the one for me because this is the type of person I want to align with if tragedy happens, if an emergency happens, if she's in front of my parents, if she's in front of my peers and my friends, classroom, if we go out somewhere. It doesn't matter. Yeah, we were in college. We went out. Yep. So I wanted to see how you react in these different situations, but change in general is hard. Being uncomfortable is hard. So when you put up boundaries, you're forcing people to be uncomfortable. And if they're a type of person who lives a comfortable lifestyle, or they have a lot of power or control in their normal lifestyle, and they're facing, resistance, they may not be used to that.
Right. But I think what's important in all relationships is mutual respect. And if somebody is telling you, this is what I need in my life right now, and this is how you can help me, this is how I would like for you to respect this, because this is what I need right now. And if you can't do that, then this is the consequence, and you do it anyway and step over their boundaries, well, you already know the consequence.
Well, people are going to test it. They're going to see, is this person serious or not? They're saying this, especially if you reneged in the past. If you said, I'm going to put up boundaries or I'm going to do something, and they say, all right, well, if I push hard enough, everything's going to go back to normal. So this happened in the past, so I'm going to just keep pushing hard enough, and they're going to go back to, everything's going to go back to normal.
Right.
But then when that doesn't happen, it's like the pandemic. People are still in 2023 wishing and hoping that everything goes back to 2019 prior to the pandemic happening. And then there's other people who have embraced the change, and they've prospered by embracing the change and moving with the times. But there's the other people who are literally still hoping and wishing that the world goes back to 2019. So you can either embrace the change, move with it, grow, or be left in the past.
I agree. I think that's where I can take accountability. If you were a person like myself to put up boundaries, and then once they get stepped on, you just kind of go with the flow, or you're like, oh, okay, well, I tried. And then you just go back to what was once normal, and you just allow certain behaviors, then of course people are going to continue to step all over them because they're not going to take you serious. Now there comes a turning point in your life where an event happens, and most of the time it's some type of traumatic event that happens where you literally see the world through a different lens. It's like a light bulb goes off in your head, and you're like, I have to stand on something. I have to do something different. And I feel like that's what I did last year. And
everybody has that different critical point or situation that happens in their life that gets them to that point. Like that gets them to the point where they're saying, okay, I'm serious. Like, I'm not going to let anything deter me from establishing my barriers or establishing these different rules in my relationships with people. I'm not going to let people talk over me anymore. I'm not going to let people disrespect me. I'm not going to let people, try to take over my shine or whatever it may be. Because you guys listening, people that they may be a friend or a good friend or a family member or whoever. There's a specific aspect of your relationship with them. You love them, but there's a specific aspect that you don't really like. And when that aspect comes out, you either react how you told yourself you were going to react in that situation, or you fold back to the norm on how you normally do,
because you love them and you don't want to risk it affecting the relationship. But it's already affecting the relationship because it's affecting you.
It's affecting you. You're not getting the results that you wanted, and it's reinforcing the behavior because you basically okayed it once again. That's more data showing that it's okay for them. You didn't address it, so then you're further down in the hole, and you're never going to feel good about it. You never, when you're by yourself or reflecting on it later on, they're fine, they're good to go, but you're going to reflect on it, and you're going to be like, oh man, I should have reacted differently in that situation because I wanted a different result.
Yeah. And I would like to say choosing to do something different or putting a boundary in place is not to prove a point. That is not it. Putting a boundary in place is doing what's best for you so that you can have some relief. It's also a way of like teaching people how to treat you. This is what I'm going to accept. This is what I'm not going to accept. This is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. And if these boundaries don't work for you, then feel free to put up your boundary. And maybe there's a full boundary between our relationship. And maybe that was just a season in our life. Maybe we aren't able to connect on that level anymore, but we can love each other from a distance because we both have those boundaries up. But it is not proving a point. It is putting in line, this is how I expect and want to be treated. And I'm not going to accept anything less than that.
People respect you if you respect yourself. And like I said before, everybody has a different boiling point or critical point where they get to that point where they want to establish boundaries or they want to do something differently. Or some people just allow people to step over their feelings forever, or they get to the point where they feel like they have to buy friends or they have to do certain things to get people to like them, and now they're acting outside of their character because they don't want to upset people or to anger them, and they just want people to have a good time around them. But they're still, at the end of the day, when they retreat to their homes, they're still going to reflect on that situation and not feel too happy about it.
Right. I feel like we've been beating around the bush. We're nearly 30 minutes in, and they're probably like, girl, what is your story?
What is your story?
What is the best way to put this? Because my intent is definitely not to bash or spew hate in any type of way, because this is not hate at all. It's actually deep love. You can only, in my eyes, I can only be hurt by those that I love the most. A stranger can't hurt me. I expect a stranger to care nothing about my feelings or who I am as a person.
Yeah, not emotionally.
But the deepest hurts are the ones that are closest to you. And so, now I'm normally one of those people where, it's like, oh, let's make a long story short. And then there are like 50 chapters and a few deleted scenes and bonus captions. But I'm not going to do that.
Nowhere near short.
Especially because my intent is not to ever prove a point. It is to release my feelings and emotions and to provide some clarity and
clarity is kindness.
Yes, I would say, and to kind of, this is a way of reminding myself, you know how artists write songs and they put all their feelings and emotions out there and they're able to sing them and they get away with it. Nobody knows what Beyonce's thinking until she puts out a new album.
That's their pathway. They may not be able to or want to have a conversation about that, but they put it on that song and they pour their heart out and hopefully sell millions of records.
Right. So, excuse me, I'm speaking. Oh, that name is so fitting. This is my album, basically. So, in trying to make a long story short, basically, last year in 2022, there was an event that occurred a little over halfway through the year. And is it important to even reference the event that happened earlier in the day?
Yeah, I think context is important.
Okay, to sum it up without giving any names or anything like that, there was basically an event that happened earlier in the day around relatives. And I was involved and one of my daughters was involved. I had a very emotional reaction.
To what?
To the incident that occurred around relatives. We were not at our home, but we were somewhere else. And so in being somewhere else, I knew that I had to keep my cool, even though my emotions were overloaded. And so my emotions weren't expressed to others. It was expressed between me and my daughter, simply because she was not revealing truths. And this is my daughter that always snitches.
Big snitch.
She will if she stubs her toe, she will say the wall hit her or something. She will tell on her sister so quick. And so when there's an incident that occurs, and this is the first time, she literally is saying nothing and is mute.
And acting scared.
That doesn't fly in my house. And acting scared before she got to me. And I'm asking her, what happened? So when I see my child, first of all, you keep lying to me. And you're quick to tell on everybody. But you're not telling. You have to tell. You have to say something. And we're really big on the no lying rule in our house.
And no whispering.
Yes. And so, and I got to be able to believe you. And especially because I knew in the situation, she was the one hurt. She didn't necessarily do anything wrong. And eventually the truth came out from...
Was she bleeding?
Mm-hmm. Yes. The truth eventually came out from the person that did accidentally do it. But then I turned to my daughter and still angry. And the anger it's historical, because this is not the first time this type of incident has occurred. But this daughter in particular...
To one of our children.
Is not saying anything. And I'm so upset because I did not raise you that way. You don't let anybody get away with harming you. I don't care if it was an accident or not. You still need to say it. So this person said exactly what happened and you didn't say it. That's a problem for me, because we have an open line of communication. You always tell. You will tell on the dog if he accidentally scratched you. You cannot now start being silent because you don't want to tell on people, even if it was an accident. That was the issue. I was overwhelmed with a lot of emotions because I also had relatives around. And yes, it takes villages to raise children, but adults need villages too. And adults need that support. Adults need that support from their relatives, especially when you see this person, they see you overwhelmed. They see that there's a history tied to it and there's no support there. That was overwhelming. But I didn't blow up on anybody. We left and we went home.
Do you think part of that anger or frustrating comes back to your childhood, where you felt like you were silenced or you couldn't speak your truth, or things happened and you wanted to be able to speak up? So now it's like we provide the atmosphere for our children to speak up, and she still was acting like she couldn't speak up or tell her truth.
I don't know. This is very difficult for me, because even in us telling the story and in you responding in that way, I'm like, oh, do I want to say that?
No, you ain't got to be specific, but I'm saying that feeling of...
It was just let's just say it was a familiar feeling. And so it was some of my own hysteria because of my own history attached to it. And why aren't you saying anything?
Context is important. That's all. So we left.
Right. We left. Went home, very calm, all of that. Was not calm in the car.
I wasn't there this whole time. I came back close around the corner. My wife calls me. She's very calm, but I could tell she's kind of teed off. And I'm like, what's up?
When I'm calm, that's a little...
Yeah, it's calm before the storm.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, basically I'm ready to leave. Where are you at? I'm like, oh, we around the corner. And we got there. She was already outside, and we left. I didn't ask too many questions. I figured whatever it was, we would discuss it on the way home, and that was it.
And we did. And so all of that was discussed. It was also discussed with my children, and I do these things not to like paint anybody as a bad person, because what happened to her, like, that was an accident that happened. But if people know, I was getting the point across to her, if people know you're not going to say anything, whether it's an accident or purposely,
they're gonna step all over you.
Yeah, and it's gonna start happening purposely. Like, whether it's in like private settings, like where we were at, or it's in a public setting like school. That's, you have bullies in school all the time. Like, you always speak up. You usually are the one that gets a little rowdy with them, so I'm a little shocked, but
Yeah, Arya ain't scared of nothing.
Yeah. So anywho, so got home, calmed all the way down. Like, I was actually in a good mood by like an hour and a half later. And then our doorbell rings and some relatives arrive, uninvited, unannounced. And hold on, rewind. On the ride home, because I have learned throughout the years that I had a very avoidant attachment style, and I would just avoid things. Like, I could be upset, but you wouldn't know, and I would just assume you need to know why I'm upset.
The queen of shutting down.
Yeah, so in me working on me, I have vowed to not do that. So I can give myself kudos if I've felt a way. I have told people exactly how I feel. Like, that's what I was working on. Well, let's say the people closer to me. So I had sent a text message and released all my feelings. Like, I didn't say them when we were there because I was too upset. But in text on the way home, it was like, where were you? I needed your support. I should have stayed at home. What is this? We're just going to chill out at home for a while. This is unfair. That is my daughter.
You felt like they should have reacted differently in the situation?
Yes. Okay. And I said, like, this is what I needed. Like, I needed your support. And I felt like I didn't have it. You said nothing.
And our daughter needed your support.
Exactly. And so then, okay, now I'm back to the story. Doorbell rings, come over, unannounced, uninvited, and it's late at night. And so now I feel like it's like, okay, take a seat at the table. And now I'm forced to have a conversation. Okay, because I was not expecting this, but it's okay. My husband is down there with me. There are some relatives at the table, and they proceed to say, this is not even about what happened earlier with you and you were so upset. Honestly, we've been meaning to talk to you. And it proceeded to turn into a failed intervention. And I say failed because in an intervention, like, you don't just bash the person and tell them everything that you believe in your opinion to be wrong with them and things that you would do differently, or insinuate there must be something more wrong that I'm not saying. And then I say my feelings and those are discredited as well.
And dismissed.
Exactly.
Or that you're mentally ill.
Yes. Or that there's just so many things that we need to change about our lives.
Yeah.
Or insinuating that my behavior and my sensitivity is becoming a problem and people aren't going to want to deal with me for long periods of time. So
including.
Exactly. So instead of actually listening to me and trying to hear my heart and where I'm coming from, and me saying I'm tired of being the strong one, adults need villages too. And my feelings are always disregarded, and oh well, she'll get over it, she'll be fine, she's the strong one. And I'm saying all these things, and I'm telling you in this situation that happened, I'm giving you examples of like maybe what I expected or what I would have liked for you to do differently, how you could have had my back. But then you tell me there is nothing you could have done, and I have to accept that because I can't change the way that you think and how you react. So we just agreed to disagree, but at least I know where we stood. Yes, I have to continue to have my back. A bit.
You're trying to do an intervention, but there's no love in the room. It's just
that
like
part.
It's just like boom, boom. Let me just. It's like a presentation, a PowerPoint full of all the areas where you're lacking, you're failing, and this is what you need to do differently.
Yes.
Not how we're gonna support you to do that, or why, or what's, like, it's just like a PowerPoint full of areas. Let's everybody in the room, let's focus on what's wrong with you, and let's also see if we can get your husband to do the same, so you can just feel like the down of the downest.
Yeah, and I'm not like an alcoholic. I'm not a drug addict, so I am listening in this intervention like fully in my right mind. I'm not out of it. So to sit there and listen to 3 different relatives tell you all this negative stuff about yourself, meanwhile your children are upstairs and they are listening because it's their house, like there's nowhere else to go.
And I'm pretty sure it was a school night too. Then
that is a bit overwhelming. And so to maintain some type of composure for the majority of that says a lot. But that's also just trying not to let the emotions boil over. Now, this is the thing. You can set boundaries. We talked about them earlier, with people and behaviors, but you can also set boundaries in the midst of active conversations. So when a conversation is being had and you feel like this is veering to the left, and I don't want us to go to this limit because I don't want to take offense. I don't want this to go overboard. And I'm telling you, hey, can you just stop right there? Like, just give me the respect, same respect that you give others, and let's not go down that road, because I heard you talking and you said you didn't say anything to another person for a certain reason. Then give me that same respect for that same reason. But when the conversation continues to go and voices are elevated in my home and people stand to their feet, and I kept trying to give warning, please don't go there, please stop, don't put words in my mouth, you're not aware of what you're talking about, please stop. And it continues to escalate until the point where the other person is standing up. So now I'm feeling disrespected in my home, and I'm feeling disrespected as a mother, because nobody can tell me what I should and should not say to my children, my minor children that I raise every single day and I sacrifice for, and that I would give my life for.
And if you did say or do something detrimental to our kids, which you've never done, as your husband, I would be the first to be like, no, that's not right. Because I have 2 daughters. What is the first, calling card of a father who has daughters? Is protect the daughters as well. So, no.
Yeah. And so somebody, don't give me unsolicited parenting advice, especially if you're not a parent. Don't do it. Or if you ain't raised nobody in your life, don't do it.
It's irrelevant.
And when I warn you and you continue to do it, then that's a problem. Meanwhile, before that part of the conversation happened, I basically just agreed to disagree with other family members because we weren't getting anywhere, and I don't believe in arguing, and everybody's not going to be on the same page, and I'm okay with that. You just learn how to move differently with people. And so fast forward, now it's to the escalated conversation, and the person is standing up in my house, so then I stand up, and they are getting loud, so I get louder, and I'm like, get out of my house. Now, if you are a homeowner, or I don't care if you rent the place, it is in your name. If you tell somebody to get out your house, you shouldn't have to tell them more than once.
This is my jurisdiction.
So when I have to relay the message several times and the person is still loud as if they pay one bill in this house,
or in any house,
then that is a problem for me. But I'm being backed into a corner don't touch this person. Don't touch them. You need to calm down. I need to calm down. This person is violating my space. My home is supposed to be my safe space. And so when this person, I'm like, get out, get out, get out. If you don't get out, I will call the police, because I know the police will make you get out if it's not your home. So then the person has more than enough time to open up the door and say, I should call the police on you for the way that you treat your children. I feel sorry for them.
Shots fired.
And in that moment, I felt like I was suffocating. Like, I know people speak out of anger. I don't really believe in it. Like you said what you said. Like, those words can't even utter and come out of your mouth. Especially, like, you don't see my kids, like, mistreated. Like, that day, you're going based off of
disciplining your child.
Disciplining my child, me yelling at them. They need to be taken, like, nobody. Oh, my God.
Raise your hand if you're listening to this and your parents ever yelled at you.
Ooh.
Are you in a crazy house right now listening to us? I don't think so. So, I mean,
that's a line for me. That's hard. Like, that's God. Nobody in my life. I haven't said that to anybody. Like, how could you have the audacity? Why would you? Oh my gosh.
That's deep. Especially, to a mother.
A mother. Like, they came out of me. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's deep.
So when you say that, those are literally fighting words. Literally. Yeah. If I wasn't already being held back. So when you feel the need to then escape from this trap that you're in the corner and run up the stairs in your own house to get away because you're so overwhelmed and you feel trapped, and you can't believe what was just said to you
by a relative,
then, like, that's a lot. Like, that is, oh my gosh, that was like the most traumatic thing. And then in return, another relative runs up in your face and says, I think you just want to blame somebody. What?
Yeah, I think any mother would have been offended by that.
It was a lot. So, and there was just a lot of accusations thrown that my husband he's not going to stick around to deal with the type of person I am.
Wow, we 10 years in, baby.
Yes, and a lifetime to go.
That's right.
But it was just a lot. So when you get to those points and you have an event like that occurs, that is the most hurtful thing. The most hurtful thing. By relatives, that is the most hurtful thing. And when you decide, that was my pivot point in life where I felt like I got to do something different. Like, this is not working. I felt broken at that point because I was in a good mood before these relatives showed up uninvited and unannounced, and for you to tear me down for hours and then for it to escalate to that point. And you didn't hear anything I said. I agreed to disagree with you. I let you talk when you even were giving your opinions about me, didn't even cut you off, let you get it all out. So I'm having to internalize this. My kids have heard it. My kids can hear the action unfolding downstairs when the chaos ensued. That was a lot to take in, and there's still no remorse. And then to look at my phone and there's a text message from the person that said the horrible thing to me about my children and said, oh, well, I'm sorry for my behavior tonight. You know, I just have a lot going on, and I really am concerned about everybody's mental health, and give me a few days and I'll be ready to talk about it. Excuse me? Oh, yeah. Let me hold your coat while you sit there and you prepare yourself so you can be ready to talk about it. As if you're some type of victim. As if you were invited over here. Excuse me?
Yeah, this was all uninvited. But even that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because there were events and things that happened prior to that led you to this point where there were boundaries that I consistently tried to put in place. And especially when you go through things in your life and you have transitions in life, you want to do something different and you try to put up boundaries. But when they were constantly like stepped on and walked all over,
you got to cut out like all of the other conversations and cut out the noise. And when I was at the point in my life where I was like, I can only deal with what I have to deal with right now. And yet you get made to like be crazy for that. Like, what? You're tripping? Like, no. Like, everything was a buildup. That night was icing on the cake.
Yeah, because previously you wanted to establish boundaries. You put them up, and then eventually it's like, well, it's family. Well, they stomped on my boundaries, or maybe they've shown signs or of the behaviors that I would like them to exhibit, but then they eventually go back to the old behaviors, the old man.
Exactly.
And then it's like you're back at square one, and you feel even worse because you tried to put up boundaries, but maybe you feel like it didn't work, or you may be disappointed in yourself because you weren't consistent with what you set out to do.
Yeah. So right after the fact, I took accountability for that. I'm like, you know what? Some of this is my fault because I've allowed certain stuff for so long, and now I want to do something different. And I should have done something different a long time ago. And that was my rock bottom point, because when somebody makes you out to be the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, and it was in your home and your kids had to listen to it, like involuntarily, like that was a low point. I understood why people start to think to themselves, okay, if I'm the problem, I'll just eliminate the problem.
Right.
And like, I wasn't going out like that. Like, I have a husband and 2 kids, and I have a life, and I am me, and I'm not going to allow anything or anybody else to continue to tear me down. Like, I had to do something different. I got to put up a stronger boundary. So when that means all communication being cut off and not going certain places, that is what it is. And I said from that point, I was wondering, why have I been going to therapy and I'm trying to work towards healing, but I feel like I can't get there. I feel like I take 2 steps forward to get kicked 3 steps backwards. What is going on? That night when that happened, I understood it, because I understood that I can't heal from this trauma and these overwhelming feelings of even feeling not good enough, or that my feelings don't matter, or that
you're the problem.
I'm the problem, or like nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, all those things that people go to therapy for to heal from. Why is it harder and harder for me to heal? Because I'm still allowing these same behaviors in my adult life. All those things that I wanted to heal from, I felt all of those negative feelings that night. That is when I decided I have to do something different. I have to cut off what's like killing me and what's hurting me so that I can heal, so that when I enter back into the situation, I'm able to move forward like with a healthier heart and a healthier mind. And I know how to be comfortable with boundaries I put in place, and how to navigate, and how to put up boundaries in conversations and everything, and not just allow all of the overlapping and overload.
Yeah, it's a boundary. It's a boundary. It's temporary. It's not meant to be the Great Wall of China.
But some people, they don't realize they start building the wall they don't respect the boundaries.
When you double down on the actions that contributed to the boundary, those become actual bricks.
Yeah.
So now you're building bricks, but you're blaming the person, but you're not actually changing your behavior. Like,
that's why healing is hard. Like, when the person doesn't take accountability, and everybody's not going to get a sorry or an apology. Like, I understand if you wait on something like that, you'll be waiting forever. Everybody's not going to get that. Definitely not a genuine one. But that's what makes healing so hard, because in healing, I understand there's the act of forgiveness. I understand forgiveness from the Bible, and I don't want that to be beat over my head, because forgiveness is a serious word. It holds a lot of weight, just like the word. When people grieve, people have patience for them, and they allow them to grieve. They even give them their space, and they're like, whatever you need. I don't want to bombard you. I don't want to be all over you. I ain't going to talk about you. I ain't going to say nothing, because I understand you're going through something. When you're going through the process of healing and you have to forgive those that you love that hurt you the most, they should have that same respect and understand that this is major and this is heavy, and I'm going to give you your space and your time, and whatever you need, whatever you've asked for, I'm going to give it to you, because forgiveness is a choice. I did not ask to be hurt. Those were my feelings. I wish that the hurt feelings didn't come. I wish it didn't happen. But to forgive you is a choice. It is an action. But you make it very hard when you keep doubling down and doing the same things, because you're creating new things that I now have to forgive you for. Well, new offenses.
You're operating from a space of I'm right, or I want people to agree with me or side with me. So now you get to the point where you're more concerned about being right or being in control of a situation than your actual family member. So then it's like, what's really important in your mind? Is it perception to people who don't even matter? Or is it about love for real? Yeah. And we all know God is love.
Yep. I read from a psychologist, his famous psychologist. His name is Dr. Enright. And I actually read it on APA.org, which is the American Psychological Association. But in an interview, he was asked, how can you forgive someone who isn't sorry for what they've done, or maybe even doesn't recognize what they did was hurtful? His response is, it makes it harder, and you can actually then forgive the person for that offense. For the person to stubbornly insist that I have done nothing is another offense. And so you can go ahead, if you're ready, if you know what forgiveness is truly, and you're not being coerced into doing it by what that person says, and you want to do it, then you can go ahead on your own, regardless of what the other person does, and forgive them. That's how freeing forgiveness can be, with the consequence of, I am now freed from what this person has been doing to me.
Wow, that's amazing. A breakdown. Like, I don't think most podcasts or just platforms are breaking down these types of terms. Like, gaslighting is another term that people may have heard now in 2023, but most of us probably still don't know what it actually means. Do you have a deeper perspective on what gaslighting is?
So let me see. So you said the term gaslighting, and I want to connect it to what I was saying previously, because the two go hand in hand. Because when you're trying to forgive somebody, it's hard to forgive them when they're continuously gaslighting you. So in the healing journey, you're in the act of trying to forgive and process your feelings and move forwards. You have direct conversations. You address things. You don't avoid them. I've done that. Although public acts and things have been said about me in settings with a lot of people, things have been said about me behind my back. People have looked at me strange. I can feel when things have been said about me, and I didn't ask for any of it. I can be blamed just for telling my story of what happened to me. All those things. Offense, offense, offense. You keep doing stuff. Just stop doing stuff. Just don't say my name. Give me the same respect that you would give somebody grieving, because truthfully, when there is a separation in a relationship, that's grief as well.
That's grief.
You're grieving the loss of a person that is still alive. That's harder, because you know they exist. You know they're within reach. But you know that you can't go back to that life with them that you once had, because it was killing you.
Especially if they have the same mindset and the same perspective.
Exactly. So he's saying that because gaslighting comes into play when there's no acknowledgement and the person tries to manipulate you into thinking that maybe you're tripping. So let me give y'all this quick definition. On Psychology Today, just breaking down forgiveness a little bit more, it says forgiveness is the release of resentment or anger. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. One doesn't have to return to the same relationship or accept the same harmful behaviors from an offender. Forgiveness is vitally important for the mental health of those who have been victimized. It propels people to move forward rather than keeping them emotionally engaged in an injustice or trauma. Forgiveness has been shown to elevate mood, enhance optimism, and guard against anger, stress, anxiety, and depression. So, all of that, like that's not even connected to even talking to the person yet. That's dealing with your own feelings and emotions and trying to transform your own thoughts about how you feel about the situation and even the person, and trying to let go of some of that anger and resentment, not making it be okay, not reconciling. But, some people say, give it some time, give it some space. Like time heals all wounds. I don't think it heals all wounds, but some wounds, yes, like it makes it easier for you to let go of that anger and resentment. But in the midst of you trying to let that go, if the person is gaslighting you and they are downplaying what actually happened to you actively, and they're trying to distort your reality or cause confusion, that's when multiple offenses then are stacked on top of whatever originally happened. And that's when you get stuck in this cycle with them. And that's when you hit that plateau that I hit, because I got tired of being gaslit.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying in terms of what is your focus? What is your objective? If you're focusing on being right or portraying a certain image, maybe because you have a title or a certain position in society, then that's creating a false reality, and that's gaslighting. But if you're focused on the truth, and you're focused on love, and you're focused on reconciliation, focus on reconciliation. There's a quote that says, whatever you focus on expands. So if you focus on reconciliation, truth, love, then that will be the reality that you find. But if you focus on those negative thoughts and feelings, that's what you'll find with that person, that situation, and maybe even in your own life in other ways.
Yeah. I know we've been on here for a while, so let me give the definition for gaslighting really quick. According to Merriam-Webster, gaslighting is the psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence and self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator. We associate gaslighting with toxic romantic relationships, but it can take place between parents and children, with our supposed friends, in the office, when we go to the doctor, or even on a societal scale when used to deny the existence of structural biases. So that could relate to racism and all that. Like, it can go deep into it. But I wanted to help y'all out because I was not aware of gaslighting, like the term and what it really meant and what signs to look for, until this last year when I really started really digging deep and doing the work. And so I want to help y'all be able to spot gaslighting behaviors and to maybe even see yourself if you've been guilty of any of this, so that you know, and maybe you can make those changes. So how to spot gaslighting behaviors. So gaslighting involves a complete lack of empathy for the victim and can be extremely tricky to spot. So there are 8 ways, y'all. So I'm going to break these down. Number 1, a gaslighter uses loaded words against you. So there are certain words and phrases that people use when they want to invalidate your thoughts and your feelings. So if someone calls you crazy, irrational, too sensitive, they're likely trying to attack your point of view. So a gaslighter can also accuse you of imagining things or overreacting when they've said or done something to hurt you. That's number 1. You got that one?
Got it.
Number 2, a gaslighter is extremely defensive. Gaslighters tend to get overly defensive over small confrontations. Gaslighters need to be right, dislike criticism, and refuse to accept any blame. So if they feel like you're challenging them, it's not uncommon for them to become highly defensive in response.
I've been guilty of that at times.
Oh, I'm sure I have. Until now I'm recognizing what it is, and I try to be intentional about not doing that, or just being defensive. Like, let's have a conversation.
That's why we in class, children. Continue.
All right. Number 3, a gaslighter is constantly telling you how you feel. Y'all know that saying like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. That's gaslighting. Like, you can't tell me how to feel. Like, I can't help the way that I feel. Those are my feelings. Like, that was a natural reaction to whatever you said or did. But okay. One major gaslighting flag is when you feel something and the other person is like, you shouldn't feel that. Only you get to decide how you feel about a situation. But gaslighters will often try to make you question your take on reality to get you on their page and to undermine your judgment.
Sounds like manipulation.
I'll get to that. Number 4. We're halfway through, y'all. A gaslighter always makes you out to be the bad guy. A common tactic used among gaslighters is DARVO, which stands for deny, accuse, and reverse victim and offender. A gaslighter might deny their victim's assertion of hurtful, deceptive, or manipulative behavior. Not only that, they also might turn around and accuse the wounded party of unfairly attacking them, turning themselves into the victim and you into the bad guy. Reversing blame can also look like the gaslighter saying that you made them behave a certain way and that it was your fault.
Wow, it's like a magic trick.
So when the story gets twisted and now they become the victim, they have tears, they are hurt. Oh, but you did this to me. You didn't do X, Y, and Z after you already hurt them. That's gaslighting.
Yeah, it sounds like
you don't acknowledge your hurts with them. Like, it's different if the hurt was acknowledged and it was a true apology and changed behavior. And I'm sorry for this. I won't do this moving forward. Are you open to moving forward? None of that occurs. But then they blame you for not reacting the way they want you to after that. But you're the hurt and wounded party.
Yeah, gaslighters are usually the people who, like you mentioned earlier, run out to tell their side of their story to create that narrative or that group of people to believe their side so that they can literally become the victim, hypothetically.
Crazy. Okay, getting through this. Number 5, you start to question your reality around a gaslighter. The result of being gaslit is that you begin to feel as if you can't trust your own thoughts or feelings. That's one reason it's difficult for a victim of gaslighting to recognize what's happening to them. A gaslighter might make you feel this way through outright denying what you know to be true, saying that you're confusing them, trivializing your feelings, or completely ignoring you and changing the subject. However they attempt to manipulate you, their gaslighting behavior can lead you to experience a chronic sense of self-doubt and loss of confidence. You may notice you're having a harder time than normal making decisions because you don't trust yourself or that you're overly worried about the consequences of making the wrong one. So they skipped number 6, so I will just go to number 7.
No 6.
There's like no number for number 6, so maybe it's just mixed in there. But this is on dailyom.com, so feel free to go check it out for yourself. But number 7 is a gaslighter outright denies what you know to be true. So in extreme cases, gaslighters will delete or destroy evidence of something that happened in order to maintain their version of reality. They may move or adjust things so you question your memory. They might also deny saying or doing things you know they said or did, but have no evidence of, then try to make you feel like you're making things up.
Man, they're committed to being right. I'll give them that.
Last, but certainly not least, number 8, the 8th sign that you are being gaslit is that you feel like you need to agree on everything. Okay? So it says in a healthy romantic relationship, or any relationship really, it's normal to have disagreements. You can agree to disagree and accept the fact that you have different perspectives. So as long as you're respectful and caring and you acknowledge each other's point of view. But when you're in an abusive relationship, it's not okay to have a different perspective in essence. You're supposed to be the same.
That's deep.
Happens in workplaces often when there's a power struggle, because they recognize there's a power imbalance. So you have to go along with whatever your boss says. You have to go along with whatever like the higher ups say, because your opinion doesn't weigh as much as theirs.
So titles and environment contribute to gaslighting, because it's like in that scenario you said, like if it's your boss, if you saw him out at the bar or at working at a gym or something, he may not be acting the same way, but because we're in this work setting and he has his title, he may have a different way of speaking to people.
Right. So, but they like create this atmosphere where you feel like you have to agree with them because there's that power struggle and imbalance. So some people still will like, let me straighten up. Like, that's my boss. Like, we out in public. Like, you are just human like me. Like,
internally, you may or may not agree with them, but because of that power and that title, you just go back into the matrix, like I said.
Yep. And so because of prolonged gaslighting, you start to lose faith in your own abilities. You question your own reality, and you become like less effective as even an employee in that situation, because you feel like your word holds no value. So then you start to hold back naturally too, because you've been gaslit for so long. You're like silenced.
So you're no longer in tune with your own thoughts and feelings. Your first response is to, what am I supposed to do in this situation, as opposed to how would you naturally react?
Right. I can say, just as a bonus, the article also goes on to say that in gaslighting is mostly, when done consistently, it's mostly done by people with narcissistic personalities. And so it says that gaslighters often engage in narcissistic behavior because they need the world to align with their own perspective, and they can feel threatened when it doesn't.
That's a whole nother podcast. But what do you think that need comes from? Someone feeling like they need everybody to agree with them. They need everybody to see them as right. They need everybody to like them. Well,
let me tell you, because it actually gives like the definition of narcissistic personality disorder. It says people with NPD have an inflated sense of self-importance and a lack of empathy, and often use charm and deceit to manipulate the people around them. Gaslighting is a major part of this. Moreover, gaslighting is typically used when there's an imbalance of power as a way for the gaslighter to maintain the higher ground. As mentioned above, it's common for people to gaslight in order to perpetuate larger structural inequalities and biases. Yeah, it goes on and on. There's like gaslighting in race, in the workplace, in ageism, in sexism, all of that. Because there's that like power imbalance that shouldn't be present, but it is. And I say that to say this, because a lot of people will tell you like, life is too short. That is very true. Life is very short. And your life does not weigh any less than the next person's life. Whether you're the victim or you're the offender, or you're the older age or you're the younger age, life is too short. And with life being too short, I value my life just as much as the next person. So I'm not going to dim my light and push my feelings aside and internally start to decay just to accept whatever type of behavior from somebody else because of the saying that life is too short. It is too short, and I want to live my fullest life and be happy. And I want people to be around me that love me and respect me. And I want to continue to heal without all of the nonsense and the chaos. And I want that for everybody involved, because just as uncomfortable as the victim is, how do you imagine how the offender feels?
Internally,
I'm sure that hurts.
Yeah, when all the people are gone, when all the titles don't matter, when all the power isn't there anymore. You know, everybody has to look themselves in the mirror. Everybody has to go to sleep at night. Everybody has thoughts. So those things don't go away. You know, in social settings, it may seem like, oh, these people have it all together, but everybody has to answer to the man above at the end of the day, and an answer to your own conscience, your own spirit. So it really is just about, how we as people can establish genuine relationships. How can we communicate effectively with each other? It's not about being perfect. It's not about being right. It's about recognizing when we have unconscious bias or different things that may have happened to us in the past that affect how we, interact with other people, and not just automatically saying something's wrong with them, looking at ourselves and seeing where we can improve as well, so we can be the best version of ourselves and interact, like I said, genuine relationships, and interact with people on the highest, vibration, the highest level, positive level ever, so we can actually live life to the fullest, like Antoinette was saying.
Yeah. I think life is about learning and unlearning to learn again. There's a lot of things that even were taught throughout the generations, and things are passed along, and that doesn't mean it was necessarily right. But now that we're like more aware, because at the end of the day, like, we're all human, and even learning how the human mind works and how feelings and emotions and the psychology behind it, and you can't just snap your finger and say like, I'm happy today, or I forgive you, or I'm not sad, or I want to fight. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, everything is like a triggered like synapses in the brain, if that's even the right word to use. But everything is connected. And so I feel like you're learning to, you learn, and then eventually at some point in life, something happens. And then some things in your life you have to unlearn, just so that you can learn and heal and feel like you're like whole again. And I know that wholeness at the end of the day, that comes from God. And
absolutely,
that's who is gonna sustain me. That's who's been sustaining me. Y'all have heard me mention God a million times on here, and I'm not gonna stop, because God has been my anchor, my root in this entire healing journey. And even beyond this, like, he will always be, because he is the one that has been there for me, like when I felt like no one else was there, whether those feelings were valid or not. Because let's be real, my husband has always been by my side, but there could be somebody right next to you and you still feel like you're alone. Like, we've all had those times. But God is always present, and I say it because he keeps me rooted and grounded. And just like T.D. Jakes, one of his sermons, The Pivot, like, things happen in life, but everything ain't meant for your bad. It was a bad incident that occurred. Whatever happened to you, maybe you don't think of it that way. Like, maybe it happened for you, because that was a pivot point in your life. That traumatic event I said, yeah, I wish that it was possible mentally for me to forget it. If I forgot it, I would just be disassociating, and that's a whole nother psychological thing. So I'm not going to forget it. I'm going to acknowledge that it happened, it hurt, but like, I am moving forward and moving on from it, and this is my new normal. What happened to me, that was not fair. That was not okay. I didn't deserve that. And I didn't deserve every single thing that has happened after that. But that is why I'm setting up my life differently. I'm choosing to do things differently, look at life differently, and I choose the type of relationships I want in my life.
It takes a special amount of confidence, pride, bravery to look at where you are in life or your relationships or different situations and choose to establish boundaries, choose to face your fears, choose to do things differently, because there are so many people out here existing, but many of them will die and they never lived a day in their life. They're just existing. They're just a warm body. So
you got to be a disruptor.
You have to be a disruptor. Shout out to T.D. Jakes again.
Y'all go back and listen to that pod. Disrupt your thinking.
There's nothing wrong with taking calculated risks. You establishing boundaries, you doing things differently is a calculated risk. You took thought. It wasn't just something that happened out of the blue. It's something that came. It was a long time coming, and there was a critical point that started that. If your end game is to establish a better internal relationship with yourself, with God, with your household, with your family, with everybody. If your end game is to become a better version of you and to be able to handle those situations better in the future, because they will come, whether they're from relatives or not, then there's nothing wrong with that. And I just commend you and anybody else who's taking those steps to face their fears and establish a new reality, because to our knowledge, this is the only life we get. So you can decide whether you will actually live or just be a warm body existing.
And that warm body for me was starting to turn cold. And I had to be a disruptor. And because I do have disruptive thinking in a positive way, I only wanted a positive outcome. Now, when the offenses keep piling up and there's doubling and tripling down, well, those people, they're making the decision to not be in my life because they keep doubling down. Like, nobody wants to separate from people that they love. But I just take the punches as they come, and I adjust to what works for me and what I'm still not going to allow. I mean, it is what it is. One thing I did want to get across for sure was that I have not said any names. I purposely did not say any names. I didn't give any titles. I didn't give anything. We got a million relatives. I didn't even say which side of the family relatives. A million, because I would never, because I'm still, even though that has been done to me, I am still not that person. Especially with this being a public forum. In my private conversations, if I'm telling my story and my story only, then that is different. Because it happened to me, and I am the author of my story, and I wish that the people in the story would not have acted the way they did, because then, like, you wouldn't be a character in the story. But what I am saying is that I did not say names because I deeply, deeply in my heart love these relatives, despite the hurt and pain and the disappointment and the confusion and even the frustration. I love them, which is why I put the boundary in place, because I didn't want that love to deteriorate into anything else. And so to maintain that love, sometimes you do have to love people from a distance. And so that's what I've chosen to do. But there is no hate in my heart at all. I am in the process of healing, and I recognize the things that have happened, and I recognize that there may not ever be an acknowledgement or anything, but I'm continuing to process that. I'm in that acceptance stage of that grief of losses of relationships now, and I'm walking into my new normal. I just want the noise to stop. And so I would hate to continue to put up more barriers. Hey, you want to move out of town? Because we could do that.
If they offering the right money. But no, I just want to say, I'm proud of you, Queen. And God is love. Y'all be safe out there. Hug your kids. It's dangerous, man. Hug your kids.
Yeah. Quote of the day to end this episode is by Angel Alexis. The quote is, "Everything you thought was drowning you was teaching you to swim."
Yeah. You either rise above or you fall below.
What they say, swim or drown, drown or swim.
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim, yeah.
Can you
swim? And I'm
swimming?
swimming. All right, yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is a little heavy episode, but I appreciate your support. And if you made it all the way to the end of this, like, you are my people.
You're the real MVP.
Yes.
Y'all come back now.
But this has been another episode of Excuse Me, I'm Speaking. Please be sure to send me your thoughts, your comments, your feedback, anything to me on Instagram at SheIsTwinkle1. You can send me a direct message, comment on a picture, or feel free to email me send me a text. Hey, give me a call. We'll talk about it, y'all. And so until next time, I love you all. Bye-bye.